Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
Matt Lauer. It was surprising, and I think it was surprising because it was so sudden. I think that was why it was such an absolute shock when this stuff happened with Matt Lauer. Maybe there were some industry insiders that knew about this, but apparently it moved so quickly. He was accused on a Monday, fired on a Tuesday. Have you been following this, Travis?
I have been following it. It's I have to say it was shocking, but at the same time when I heard about it, I was like, you know what? I had a feeling he was a dirty boy.
Really?
I don't know. There's something about him. He just seemed, I don't want to say he seemed too clean or he seemed too good, but there was just something about him that maybe I didn't know, but now that it's coming out, I'm kind of not surprised.
Well, here's apparently how not clean Matt Lauer was. Let's see about the list of allegations that have that have come up. Well, first and foremost, did you hear about the distinctly James Bondy thing that he has going on in his office?
I haven't actually heard anything. All I heard was that there was what I heard, and I don't even know if it's accurate, was that the New York Times was doing some investigation and that people kind of knew that it was coming down. They were waiting for one official complaint because they didn't have that's kind of what I had heard. I could be completely wrong. That's all I heard. And then I heard there might be others. I haven't heard anything about what he actually did.
So these are, I suppose, what people are calling the worst allegations against Matt Lauer. He's been accused of sexual harassment. And by the way, it was kind of brutal when I was just like, Matt Lauer, really? I don't really know anything about Matt Lauer. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch a lot of that type of TV. But I did watch the Thanksgiving Day parade, which he hosted the other day. And he was talking about how he'd done it for like 20 years and definitely a family-friendly sort of individual. So he was kind of top of mind when all of this happened. But he's been accused of sexual harassment by several women. This is according to a new report by Variety. And, oh man, he had this special lock on his office door. Did you hear about this?
No. Okay,
so this lock that he allegedly had on his office door was, like I said, straight out of a James Bond film. This is from Variety. His office was in a secluded space, and he had a button under his desk that allowed him to lock his door from the inside without getting up. This afforded him the assurance of privacy. It allowed him to welcome female employees and initiate.
So was he locking them in?
I don't know if, that's certainly Harvey Weinstein stood in front of the hotel room door, blocking the door with his enormous, bloated Jabba the Hutt-esque body, but he just had a lock built in. Now, here's the thing. He knew nobody could walk in on him. And this is according to the two women who were harassed by Lauer. So, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, he's locking you in, but on the other, well, we don't know, because maybe the door didn't lock maybe it just locked from the outside.
That's creepy no matter what.
It is a weird thing. I mean, unless you're a survivalist, there is no good reason to have that on your door.
No, I don't even know that there's a good reason then. That's just creepy.
He allegedly gave a female coworker a sex toy, including an explicit note describing how he wanted to use it on her.
No.
Yeah. It's all these things that you hear, like you read the first sentence, like he gave a coworker a sex toy. Okay, wildly inappropriate, but it could have been a gag gift. It came with a note about how he wanted to use it on her. That's not okay.
No.
He summoned a female employee to his office. And I think this is the one that got him canned. And he dropped his pants to show her his junk. Like, nobody wants to see that. No one wants to see it.
Wow. Oh my God. Okay, this keeps getting worse and worse.
Oh no, it's like these are, again, we want to stress the alleged part, but where there's this much smoke, we've found in the past there's a little bit, at least, of fire. Several sources claim that his harassment extended, interesting choice of words that the folks over at Variety used there, to his travel assignments for NBC News. Like, he would get all sorts of busy and filthy while he was He was on travel assignments, and he would invite female NBC employees to his hotel room late at night. That's a Weinstein-esque move, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah.
This is what's interesting. A lot of sources believe that the network protected Lauer. And this man, remember, is the highest paid television personality in America, to the tune of $25 million a year. So, if you pay somebody $25 million, you're going to think that he's worth $25 million. And if he's making you $25 million, well, then I guess there's a chance that you're going to get out in front of it and try and stop something to protect your investment. And I think that's the thing that bothers me the most, is the creepy worship of money, and anything is okay at that cost. More on this next. By the way, thank you so much for joining us again, Travis Golightly.
Thank you, sir.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
If you are just joining us, our guest on the show once again today is beloved Houston radio personality, police dispatcher, police diver, sheriff's deputy, train conductor, train engineer, tugboat operator. What's your official job on the tugboat, Travis Golightly?
I am an able seaman. Insert joke. I know.
That's really the job description. Able seaman.
That's the rating. It's the job description. Technically, I guess you would say I'm a deckhand right now. I'm about probably 35 days away from sitting for my mate's license. So yeah, right now my technical rating is an able seaman.
So mate's license.
Yes. Yes. So yeah. I don't know that that's much of an upgrade to go from an able seaman to a mate.
Well, put those hands together. Why not be both? He's an able seaman and a mate.
Exactly.
All right.
So yeah, we'll see.
We are joined yet again on the show today by beloved Houston radio personality, police dispatcher, sheriff's deputy, police diver, boat cop, air traffic controller, train conductor, railway engineer, tugboat operator, able seaman, and potential mate, Travis Golightly.
Well, hello, sir.
Yeah. And again, if you just joined us, we're talking about the Matt Lauer thing. That's incredible. The thing that blew my mind about it, and you say you'd heard whispers of it, but the idea that it was reported on a Monday and he was fired on a Tuesday. This is a guy who makes $25 million a year. Now, if you're a person that's making $25 million a year, you better believe you are unbelievably protected in your contract. That will have everything written into it that you want, including your ability to absolutely dismantle that company piece by piece if they wrongfully terminate you. And so the fact that they were, without a shadow of a doubt, ready to fire him a day after that information came in, that would be a short-ass investigation. There was nothing slowing him down. They got rid of him, meant that the evidence that they had must have been so incredibly damning that there's no question. And so I'm sure we're going to hear more and more about this as it all unfolds.
I think it's the tip of the iceberg. It's going to get dirtier. It's going to get so much dirtier.
Or by the sounds of things, we're finding out now that maybe it was sort of like, people at his company knew. People knew. It was sort of like an unspoken secret, and there was probably people that were deeply affected by the fact that if these things are true, he was an unbelievable sleazebag. So maybe they were just looking for an opportunity to get rid of him. And they're like, got it, fine. Maybe it was just a situation where like, hey, we all hate him. He's a terrible person. He does terrible things to people. He is abusive. Now, look, we all know that he did this thing to you. If you're just willing to come forward, your job's going to be fine and we'll all be rid of him. And there's going to be so much money in it for you, because the person that came out and spoke against him went into the offices with the lawyer and essentially did what resulted in Matt Lauer getting fired less than 24 hours later was someone who had... She said that she had that she'd had sex with him in his office. It didn't say he forced himself on her. It didn't say it was rapey. It didn't say it was... it did imply that there was an abuse of power in that she felt as though if she didn't go along with his desire to have sex with her, and if she spoke out about it, she would have been fired. So, I mean, that's the real kind of crux of the matter in a lot of these cases. Like, you can say it was consensual, but did she really feel like she had a choice in the matter? And that's where it gets pretty nuanced with the language. But it just seems like, you know, hey, you had sex with someone in your office. Well, now we know. Now it's out there in the open. Now it's been reported. That's enough to fire you. We're all sick of your crap, Lauer. We've known this about you for a long time. You're out. Bye. So I think that's either the evidence was so incredible and they had no idea, but the evidence was just impossible to ignore, or they were just waiting for an opportunity to get rid of him.
It's going to be interesting to see what more comes of this because, you know, you listen to the other anchors on the show and either they're really good actors and actresses or they're in denial because these people are just like supposedly shocked and they're like, oh my God, this has come as a shock to all of us. He was a coworker and a friend and I don't know how to wrap my head around this. And you're thinking the guy was apparently dirty, creepy. I mean, just creepy. How do you work with somebody for that long who's that creepy? All of a sudden it comes out and you're shocked? I mean, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what more comes of it because I don't know how these people didn't have a clue.
What a lot of people said with the Harvey Weinstein thing, like what George Clooney said, was he was like, man, I knew he was a sleazebag. I knew he was a womanizer. I knew he wasn't, you know, a good dude when it came to women. I did not realize he had basically a rape organization at his disposal. Probably very few people knew that Harvey Weinstein was A, raping people, and B, also had this sort of like team of folks to intimidate his victims into not speaking. It was a whole elaborate organization that he had. And like, you can think someone's a creep, but not have really any idea of the extent of what they're doing. So maybe they thought Lauer was sleazy. Apparently he would call out he would name by name out loud to everybody the female coworkers that he wanted to sleep with. And that's, you know, look, there's a creative process to the things that we do. When you're a creative person, say you're a writer, a television writer or something like that, you have to be allowed to go through whatever process it is that you're going through and arrive at the conclusion. Like, there's a lot of times when something you hear me say on the radio has been censored 1,000,000 times and whittled down from the original idea, and it works great and it's family friendly. But if I hadn't had the original idea, which if I'd said it on the air would have been wildly inappropriate, I wouldn't have a show. You know, so it's an interesting one because with creative people in the media, you need a certain amount of latitude for that creative process. And we'll talk more about this when we come back. Travis Golightly, Able Seaman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
So super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser, is out today, which means we are joined by, as I take a great deal of pleasure in repeating all of your various titles, all the things that you've done since leaving the world of Houston radio. We are joined by Travis Golightly, beloved Houston radio personality, police dispatcher, sheriff's deputy, police diver, boat cop, air traffic controller, train conductor, railway engineer, and tugboat operator. Able Seaman. Sorry, I've got to get the terminology.
See, we're learning something today. That's important here.
It's very important to learn things. I have learned that. You know what's disappointing?
What?
You know what I learned that was disappointing? So, literally the night before last, which was Tuesday night, I go to bed and I'm doing a little light reading about how everybody in the world of entertainment is a horrifying sex monster. And yes. I go, at least no one that I really care about, no one that's made a big contribution to my life has taken a hit in this. I mean, the Cosby thing was tough because, who didn't love the Cosby Show growing up? Who didn't learn valuable life lessons about growing up? Who hasn't fantasized about one day having a family and consoling them during hard times by lip syncing to classic jazz and blues records hilariously. Like, the Cosby Show was a big positive force in a lot of our lives. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, there's no getting around that. So that was definitely a bummer, but Cosby wasn't like one of my favorite guys ever. But, you know, I wake up to the news of Matt Lauer. I was like, oh, Matt Lauer, go figure. Wow, how's about that? Again, I'm so glad it's no one that really affects Garrison Keillor. No. And I suppose I kind of have to address that one just a little bit, because I've talked many, many times on this show about how Garrison Keillor is a massive deal in my life. I love his writing. I love his radio show, Prairie Home Companion. I've traveled to see him live. There's no two ways about it. This is a guy whose work that has meant a tremendous deal to me over the years, and I'm a fan. It's a big, big deal. Did you read any of this?
I heard it after I heard the Matt Lauer thing. I heard it teased as in two are down now after sexual misconduct claims or something. And I thought, who's the second one? And then I heard the name and I thought to myself, hang on, where have I heard that name? And I started thinking about it and I'm like, oh my God, I think that's 80s Hero. And it is. And but I will tell you, I read into this, and I don't want to call anybody a liar or anything, but if any of the claims have seemed completely blown out of proportion, this is the one.
And look, there might be details that come out in the days and weeks to come that completely blow my sense of security on this one, but he was fired, he said, over a story I think is more interesting and more complicated than the version that Minnesota Public Radio, his broadcasting home for over 40 years, heard. He said that I meant to pat her back after she told me about her unhappiness, like give her a consoling hug, and her shirt was open and my hand went up it about 6 inches. She recoiled. I apologized. This is what he emailed the newspaper. I sent her an email of apology later, and she replied that she had forgiven me and not to think about it. We were friends. We continued to be friendly right up until her lawyer called. Now, here's the thing. There was no sexual misconduct allegation. It was inappropriate behavior, which made me go, okay, all right, that's maybe I can live with that a little bit more. And then, you know, his explanation, if that's true and that's what he got fired over, that's utterly freaking ridiculous. But there is, you know, look, there's two sides to this situation. One is the incredibly positive one that women have been empowered to speak up. Very close friend of mine back in the day when I was a kid told me that she had been raped at knife point. I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Dude. And she was like, it was somebody I knew and someone my family knew. And that's why I never came forward. I was like, you never, like, at knife point. And she was like, I suffer with huge feelings of guilt about this every single day, because, you know, if he's willing to do that to me and I didn't do things that would put him behind bars, it's devastating for me to think that I had an opportunity, but it was so difficult to prove, and everybody I know loves him. And she was like, I'm a strong person, but for some reason I was just shut down on this one. And it really spoke to me, the level of difficulty that women have coming forward, because if you knew this person, you would think that she was a strong, tough individual that would never stand for this in a million years and would do everything to make sure this guy was behind bars, and behind bars toot sweet. And hearing the story of how this had gone unpunished for years and years really kind of opened my eyes to how it's a difficult situation. So the positive aspect of all this is people like Harvey Weinstein are going down hard. And the other thing is, this is empowering people that maybe would have been afraid or ashamed or any number of the reasons that people don't come forward with this sort of thing, to think it's okay to come forward, to think it's the right thing to do to come forward, to think that they're going to be lauded and congratulated instead of worry about losing their job, like the woman who had sex with Matt Lauer in his office allegedly was worried about losing her job. So that's cool. The flippity flop of that is there's become, you know, a difficult situation to manage where it's been a bit of a wizard hunt. And Garrison Keillor, if this is true, if all he did was go to pat someone on the back, his hand accidentally slid into her shirt, her bare back, he made it very clear which part of the body he was touching, and he got fired over that, because in this day and age when there's an accusal, you're done. That's really unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. And it's one of those deals that, like I say, I believe that people it's so hard. It's so hard to not seem, supportive of it. I think people have the right to, obviously to a trial, or the right to defend themselves. I mean, if somebody accused me of something and I didn't do it, I would hope that people would respect the fact that I at least have some sort of ability to defend myself and explain the situation. But at the same time, exactly like you said, it's so important that people realize that they have the ability to come out about this, and that they're not immediately questioned in the sense that, people don't believe them, or they're shamed to the point where they don't feel comfortable doing it. They definitely, just like you said, they definitely need to feel comfortable to be able to come out with stuff like this. But at the same time, situations like Garrison Keillor, and I'm hoping, if he was seriously fired over this thing, that there's a whole nother side of the story that we haven't heard that's much worse than this, because this is a witch hunt. I mean, at least from what we know about it right now.
Wizard hunt.
A wizard, exactly. It makes me kind of sick to my stomach, if innocent people who really were just he was trying to console her, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, what does this teach us? That, you can't be a nice guy. You can't be a nice person. I mean, it's just, it's so dangerous.
It's an interesting one, because he also went on to say, anybody that's worked with me knows that I am not a touchy person. Like, I don't hug, I don't greet hello. He was like, everybody that works with me greets each other hello with a hug. And right. I'm just not, I guess technically the term is tactile. I'm not a tactile person. It was interesting, though, having someone who I deeply am invested in. I've been listening to his tapes since I was 4 years old. I've been reading his books since I was 5 years old. I've been listening to I've been traveling the country to see him play in different places for years and years as well. And so that's a big deal. And what was interesting was it made me check myself, because my first response was like, oh no, please no. And then I saw his explanation for it, and I was like, oh, this actually sounds like nothing. Great. And then I was like, I had to check myself, because I was like, hold on, am I just giving him the benefit of the doubt because I think he's great? Because, I admire him and I respect him, and his writing has meant a lot to me over the years. If I am so eager to believe that he's completely innocent because he seems like a great guy to me, well, that's what, people that are hesitant to come forward are up against. He's such a great guy. Everybody thinks he's such a great guy. No one will ever buy it. Gosh, I can't possibly come forward. You know what I mean?
So true. True.
Having it happen to someone that you really care about is an interesting mirror being held up, because your reaction is a gauge of what society's reaction is going to be. Like, I don't care about Matt Lauer. I've never really watched him on TV. No. He seems like an okay guy, sort of an all right broadcaster. And those of us in broadcasting that see the dude with a $25 million a year job, they go, really? Okay. You know what I mean? Like, with the vast majority of them, like, I hear people like Howard Stern and go, yeah, he's worth every penny that the market's willing to pay for him. And he has, a massive audience. And I get that. But someone like Matt Lauer, who is not, in my eyes, a creative. You know what I mean? It's just like he's sort of an empty vessel. He reads the news, and every time he sort of tries to possibly maybe editorialize a little bit, it always seems to me to be very ham-fisted and uninformed. And the world doesn't go to Matt Lauer for his opinion. I think a lot of us in the broadcasting world look at him and go, he's all right, I guess. I don't get it. And so because I had no emotional connection to Matt Lauer, I'm like, oh, yeah, probably did. There you go. Immediately was willing to dismiss it. But when it was a person that I was emotionally connected to in some way, I was like, never, not him, no. And, you just got to be careful and understand how someone's popularity, whether you like it or not, no matter how sophisticated you believe you are in your thinking, can be colored by how much you like or don't like someone.
That's so true. I didn't even think about that. When I saw his name, or heard his name in the news, I was trying to figure out who he was, and I realized who he was, that he was your hero. I thought to myself, I mean, I kind of chuckled, not in a happy way, but I thought, oh, that's AD's hero. I was like, oh no, this is terrible, because it's same thing. I mean, I don't have any sort of connection to Matt Lauer. I've never thought, oh God, I got to watch this morning because I need to see what Matt Lauer is going to say, but here's somebody who you actually really care about, and now he's in the spotlight. And that's interesting, because I never even thought about that. I never thought about, the initial thought of, not trying to make excuses for him, but trying to be like, no, not him. That's interesting.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting again to me is that you were the only person who approached the situation gingerly, where you're like, was that maybe? I thought perhaps it could have been your guy, and is that like you were at least sensitive about approaching me about it. Literally everybody on the face of the planet has been texting me, Facebook messaging me, tweeting me, be like, that's your guy, right? That's your guy. What do you think about your guy? How about this? Oh man, what do you think about your guy? I'm like, what the hell? Do you go up to people in wheelchairs, tap dancing and moonwalking to you, insensitive F? You know, it's just like,
oh my God. No, I was like, by proxy destroyed, because I was like, once I realized who it was, I'm like, oh God, I'm like, I don't want to bring it up. I hope he doesn't bring it up, because I don't want to I don't want to make you relive it over and over and over. I'm like, oh, he's going to be sensitive about it. Oh, this is terrible.
The other thing that Garrison said was, he was just like, it was really, he basically said it was nothing. But I'm 75. He retired last year, and he occasionally created content for Minnesota Public Radio, and that was it. He's, he's in his twilight years, and the fact that he lost his job and lost his sort of like distributors and affiliates and all that sort of stuff, he's made all the money in the world. He's had a bazillion best-selling books. He's had movies. He's had, sold-out tours wherever he goes. Like, the guy is not hurting for cash. He'll be just fine. So it's not like it's destroying his livelihood. And he seems secure enough in his reputation where he's like, this is stupid. And he also went and said that he's like, I'm 75 now, and I don't feel like getting into a fight with the organization that has afforded me such a wonderful career. And,
that's nice.
And so maybe that's his way of saying, look, you got to do what you got to do. This is garbage. And I'm going to say it's garbage, but I'm also not going to fight you on it and try and get my, 2 shows or 2 hours a week back on the air when I'm 75 years old and technically retired. So, and the fact that he didn't want to get into a fight with, like I said, an organization that gave him his career, and it was a glittering and very long career too. I kind of respect that. I choose my words cautiously with this one, because it could come out tomorrow that he had a rape dungeon or something like that. It's just like, you just don't know what the situation is. And that's, I guess, the thing to bear in mind. Unless you were there, you don't know. All right, then, Travis.
I'm sorry for your loss. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry.
No, I don't consider it a loss yet. It's a to be continued situation. Speaking of things to be continued, a little later on, I want to play you a song by an English band that was written as a joke, as a goof. They were mocking American music in the mid-90s. They thought grunge music was the dumbest thing ever. And as this joke and goof, they proved that they could write an American-sounding grunge song in 2 minutes. And, they stopped laughing when it turned out to be the biggest success they ever had. Which song was it? We'll get into that and more next.
These streets most every day, you're waiting to get washed away. Radio! 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 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock nobody better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock nobody better than me.
So if you just joined us, hanging out with our guest producer, Travis Golightly. Super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser, is out today. And for that reason, we get the dulcet tones of one Mr. Golightly, who has been joining us as we talk about the fact that literally everyone in the world of entertainment appears to be a horrific sex monster.
I guess you saw Jeremy Piven was grouped into those as well.
The Entourage guy.
Yes. I guess he had a CBS show as well, and they're dropping it.
I never trusted that guy. And,
no.
No, there's a reason I never trusted that guy. Like, he always seemed kind of D-baggy, just like that was a general impression I got. I never watched Entourage or anything like that, but there was something about him that I found distinctly unsavory. And he was one of the people that denied. He denied. He was like, nope, absolutely not. Didn't happen. No. And then like 3 or 4 more other allegations came out. And I think that's always very telling too. It's just like, if one person says it, then you go, let's see where this goes. And then if nothing comes out afterwards, if there's no, because like, I think the logic behind that one, and it might be very, very flawed, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but this sort of behavior tends to be habitual. It's almost like a compulsion, like they can't stop themselves. Like, it's a weird thing. I would never think like I'm going to get someone who is subordinate to me at work to walk into my office. I'm going to whip my junk out. Like, I'm English. I feel self-conscious at home alone under the covers in my pajamas in the dark. I'll just be like, nobody needs that. I should put something else on, so it's just like, I can't imagine being like a Harvey Weinstein. And like Harvey Weinstein, that kind of guy he's got to be realistic. He spent his entire life judging people's ability to be a star in movies, and he's probably gone like, they're a little flabby, they're not good looking enough, he doesn't have Brad Pitt chin, we need to get someone with Brad Pitt chin. Like, he is probably somebody who is very, very sort of like critical of the human form because it's made him millions of dollars in the past. So there's no way Harvey Weinstein drops trow, looks in the mirror and thinks, women will want to look at this. This is definitely something that they will want to see. And when I pull out my pathetic little junk, my shriveled up tadger is something that is going to drive them wild with desire. Like, he doesn't think that. So the doing this repeatedly is definitely some sort of weird, sick compulsion. And when you have a weird, sick compulsion, you're going to see multiple instances of this happening. Like, I was really interested in what happened with Russell Simmons. Do you see Russell Simmons?
I saw the deal. It looks like he's denying all allegations, but it looks like other people are coming out and...
Oh, really? Are there other people? So, like, one woman accused him, and he got out in front of it. He was like, absolutely not. I totally remember the night in question. Everything was consensual. No. And I would have expected the floodgates to have opened and like a bazillion people come out, because like, this guy was a hip hop mogul in New York City in the 1980s who was, smoking dust on a regular basis. Like, if there was anyone who had done stuff that they didn't remember or where they were out of control, it was Russell Simmons. And I was expecting a deluge of folks to come out afterwards. And the fact that there weren't made me go, oh, maybe he's telling the truth. But if there's more folks that you've heard of, then maybe I'm wrong.
I think the latest that I heard was that he got like grouped up in that whole Brett Ratner deal.
The model said that he was with Brett Ratner when this happened, and Brett Ratner was like watching, which is, Like, again, as someone who is unbelievably self-conscious, I don't need another, like, I like the lights very, very low, and I apologize a lot. That's how I
and I apologize a lot. No, I never heard any more about it. So maybe you're right. Maybe he did get out ahead of it, and that's one of those that's going to drop off. You may be right on that one. Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm hoping with Garrison Keillor. But like, Jeremy Piven, I never trusted him. And you want to know why I never trusted him? I just find him to be a kind of a phony individual. And this is why. What's the first thing you remember seeing Jeremy Piven in?
The first thing, I think I truly learned who he was in Entourage, which I know is way, way, way out there. I think the first thing I ever remember him in was that movie, Very Bad Things. But surely he did other things before that.
I don't think I saw Very Bad Things, but you probably don't realize it, but the first time you most likely heard of or saw Jeremy Piven on the screen was in Seinfeld.
What? Hang on. Who was he?
So do you remember when the story arc where they get the pilot bought by NBC and they hire people to play...
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
He was George. He was the actor that got hired to play George.
Oh my God. That's right. And
And
I can't believe I missed that.
At the time, well, here's the thing. He's so different now to what he was then. At the time, he made a very convincing George. He was fat. He was bald. He looked exactly like Jason Alexander. And then he did some sit-ups, and like he vehemently denies all the sexual harassment allegations, but he also says that thing on his head is real. So you take it with a grain of salt. But like, I just, on the one hand, I shouldn't be hating because he reinvented himself. He got himself in shape, and he was a very convincing George Costanza. But then all of a sudden he was like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm hip. I'm in shape. I have muscles. I could be an action hero. I'm much more like Bruce Willis now, which was basically the vibe of him. And I just, I didn't trust it. And I felt like this is a guy who is living a lie and doing sleazy and insecure things. Plus, I knew some people that had dealt with him and went that there have been more pleasant encounters than my encounters with Jeremy Piven. So
no, and like you said, I didn't realize that it was. You're exactly right, though. It
doesn't it make you question him? Like, you were George Costanza, and now you want us to believe you're cool. You're not that good of an actor.
Yeah, well, because like I said, the first time I really, really knew who he was in Entourage, and he played such a jerk in Entourage that it just, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh. You know who else? Which other member of the Hollywood elite is one of the more recent ones to go down?
Who's that?
It makes it extra creepy because he is involved in children's entertainment.
Oh, no.
It was Pixar head John Lasseter. There's so many now, it's hard to keep track. This is like a little while ago, but yeah, John Lasseter, the head of Pixar, maker of beloved child movies for children. He was accused of a bunch of stuff, and he's taking a leave of absence, so I guess we can count on the fact that he's guilty. This would explain why they're putting Fondling Dory on hold. He puts the rat in Ratatouille.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KBRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So we've covered Matt Lauer. We've covered pour one out for Garrison Keillor. That's a depressing one if it turns out to be. We've covered Matt Lauer. We've covered Garrison Keillor. We've covered John Lasseter, the Pixar head. We've covered Jeremy Piven. We've covered everyone in Hollywood at the moment who we know to be a horrific sex monster. And I got to be honest, I'm getting a little fatigued with this one. It's an important conversation to be had, and the direction that it's steering the country in is something that we want to pay very close attention to. But I think I've had about enough of molesty folks for today. How about you, Travis?
It's exhausting. It really is. Like, I do wake up every day kind of excited to see who the next molester is that's being outed. But at the same time, just like you said, it's important to keep in mind the seriousness of this and the positive way that this is making, people who are victims of these people feel empowered to come forward. So it's a good thing in one sense, and for these predators to be outed. But in the same sense, I'm just exhausted.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a sea change, and it's, you know what it is? You also got to bear in mind, it's condensed like cream of tomato soup. Like right now, people have gotten away with this for a long, long time. So we're getting this massive sludgy deposit in the frying pan all at once without any water added to it because it's been so long. And like, this will eventually slow down. It's like, when you have a kink in the hose and there's a bunch of grody water that has to come out first before it can be sparkling and clean. So, I think we're done with it for today, though. This is really interesting. I think that a lot of people in America have a hard time imagining that the world doesn't begin and end with the place that they're in. And you know why? It's not because people aren't open-minded. It's not because they don't want to see the world or know things. It's because we're all working so freaking hard in this country that we don't really have time to consider too much else, which is why I was really interested to find this interesting article about workplace perks that we don't have in America that are the done thing in the rest of the world. Last Thursday was all about being thankful, and now it's Thursday again, and we're sick of working. So brace yourself for a small dose of jealousy. Here are workplace perks that people in other countries get that we don't. In Europe, did you know you can refuse to work more than 48 hours a week?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's the law. You don't want to do it. You don't like, I'm going to schedule for 49 hours. No, you're not. And I'm going to keep my job.
So there's no such thing as like mandatory overtime. Well, mandatory overtime, yes, but not over 48 hours.
No, in the European Union, there's this thing called the Working Time Directive, and your boss can't schedule you for more than 48 hours a week unless you say it's okay.
Oh my God.
Have you ever slept on the job, Travis?
I have. It was legal when I was a locomotive engineer and a locomotive conductor for the railroad. You could job brief. There was an actual rule for this. You could job brief, and if you agreed, if all crew members were in the cab of the locomotive and you all agreed that there was no danger to anyone's safety and someone was going to stay up, you could nap. It was it was legal and it was in the rule book. That's, I think, the only time I've ever napped on the job, though.
No kidding. Well, I mean, I can see that. Look, if there's a situation where you want to know that someone's going to be fresh and after taking a nap, I would imagine it's where you have an enormous locomotive hurtling down a track at many miles per hour where lots of people could easily lose their life. So I like that idea. In Japan, you can sleep during your shift and be praised for it. It's seen as an act of diligence because you're so committed to your job, you refuse to go home. And it's so common, they have a word for it. It's called inamuri, and it literally means sleeping on duty. So I'm going to show my dedication to my boss over the next couple of days by committing inamuri. I wonder how that's going to go.
Not well.
Yeah, not well.
I don't know if you know, but you're not Japanese. Yeah. I'm not here to judge you if you identify as Japanese, but you're not Japanese.
You sound an awful lot like my boss shooting down my last harebrained plan. All right.
Exactly.
France passed a law last year that says you can ignore work emails when you're not on the clock. I love that because when you go home, you should be freaking at home. Like, you should be able to say, like, no, if you need to reach it, you can't. So much of my job is picking up after other people. Like, you didn't finish your job. Oh, I'm here at 11 o'clock on a Friday night. I guess I'll do it because I can't get you on the phone. I would love to be able to do the same thing to other people. And that's why that law in France sounds freaking fantastic to me. It applies to anyone who works at a company with at least 50 employees. It's called your right to disconnect, and it's supposed to reduce stress and eventually make you more productive in the workplace. I like that. Would you be for that?
I would be for that, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. It's never going to happen here. I don't think it'll ever happen here.
No. In Finland, a lot of businesses... this is interesting. In Finland, a lot of business meetings happen in saunas. They're a huge part of the culture there, so... a lot of big companies have their own in-office saunas for employees to use. Would you be using the employee sauna, Travis?
I would go in the sauna. Now, I'm just curious. I don't know if you go in saunas, but if you do, the question I have is, and I think I know the answer, do you take off the clothes or do you not?
If it's a private sauna,
if you're in there with other people,
if I'm in there with other people, it's a bathing suit situation.
Yeah, same here. I will not do it.
If I'm, like I said, I'm English, I can feel self-conscious alone in the dark under the covers in my pajamas and feel like I need to cover up more. So if it's like, if it's a private sauna where I know I'm not going to have to subject anyone to seeing this revolting mass known as my body,
get naked. Yeah.
Then I will go with a towel because even I don't want to see that. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
I don't want to, there's not enough steam to cover up the shame I feel when looking down at that.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I tried to get into saunas for a little while because a buddy of mine that's all like, personal trainery and in excellent shape and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He told me, he's like, the skin's the biggest organ in the body and the sauna cleanses it. It's really great for you to sauna. And I don't know how long you're supposed to stay in there. And I've got actually no problem with the heat and the sweat and the steam and all that sort of stuff. I just get really bored because one thing you can't do in a sauna is take your headphones in there. Like, I couldn't play music off of my phone, or I couldn't listen to an audiobook, and you can't read because of all the steam. Like, there's nothing to do in a sauna other than be alone with your thoughts. And I've found it's very unhealthy for me to be alone with my thoughts. That's yeah. So I get bored and then I disturb myself, and it's not good times.
For some reason, I can see that.
Yeah. No need to suspend your disbelief on that one. All right. So, gonna finish out the show with this song we talked about. There was a band in England. They were one of the biggest bands in England in the mid-90s, and they thought very little of what was going on in America. They thought of grunge music, American grunge music, as being kind of bullheaded and simplistic and just easy to create, that involved no finesse, no skill, and no real songwriting abilities. And so to prove their point, they're like, we can write an American grunge song in 2 minutes. Let's go. And they knocked out what they considered to be a parody of an American grunge song in 2 minutes. And they laughed at Americans and how silly we all are. And then they were laughing all the way to the bank, but not maligning the American music scene quite as much when that song turned out to be the biggest hit that they'd ever had. And the song we're talking about is, any guesses, Travis Golightly?
Absolutely none.
The song we're talking about is often known as Woohoo, and you can hear the one jab at American culture and over-the-top aggressive histrionics in music with that line, I feel heavy metal. The song is, of course, Blur's song 2. Blur's song 2, a song that was written as a joke, as a goof, as a parody of what Blur saw as the simplicity and boneheadedness of American grunge music, which ironically wound up being their biggest hit ever. Yep, true story. Another true story is, Travis, do you ever feel like you wish you were more popular?
Yeah. I mean, at times I feel like I'm popular, and then sometimes, like when I'm eating dinner alone, I think I'm a loser. So, yeah, I think I do sometimes wish that.
Yeah. Well, apparently the secret to being more popular is, and I wish I would have known this in junior high, nodding.
Nodding?
Yes, nodding.
Like nodding your head, yes?
Yes, like an affirmative head motion.
I believe that.
I believe that. It seems like a pretty easy way to make people like you. It's a lot easier than, doing nice things for them or treating them well, and which is why I'm way into it. It seems to involve a lot less work.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper than buying gifts.
You know what's interesting? Like, it's funny because, like, a coworker said to me the other day, they're like, "You're a very intimidating guy." I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
You?
Yeah, I know. And I was like, I don't see that. They're like, you just kind of have this thing, like you don't suffer idiots real well, and nobody wants to be the next idiot that you encounter. And I was like, huh. And then I said to another person that I knew a little bit better, I was like, am I intimidating? They're like, You? Like, no, not even a little bit. And I suppose it's like you get what you give, but evidently I don't have the patience to treat people. Evidently I don't have the patience, basically, is what it seems like in the workplace. And so bearing in mind that I wouldn't have to go out of my way to be nice to people that I didn't like particularly, I now know that I could just nod. According to a new study out of Hokkaido University in Japan, all you got to do to be more popular is nod more. Now, the researchers had their subjects watch videos of people. In some videos, the people were nodding. In some, they weren't. And the same people were rated 30% more likable when they were nodding a lot as opposed to not nodding. And 40% more approachable. So if you're trying to seem like you're more happy or go lucky than you actually are in the workplace, just nod significantly as you go through the bulk of your day, and people are instantly going to like you more and think you're more approachable. The thing is that, I don't know, maybe this goes back to why some people think I'm intimidating. I don't want to be approached. You know, like, unless it's super relevant to my day, I got stuff to do. No approaching. I would like it if you thought I was nicer, without me having to put the effort in, but I don't want to be approached. I don't want to be approachable. Unless it's by you, in which case it would be fantastic. Unless it's by you listening to the show, you, my friend, are the best part of my day every single day. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of my radio family. You're the best. Travis, you're the best too. Appreciate you being here.
I'm nodding. Thank you.
Yes, I'm nodding. And seeing as this study was conducted in Japan, we could nod off and be seen as being very committed to our jobs. We learn new things around here. All right, have a good one.